I'm a firm believer that all the boyfriends on TikTok who said they were thinking about the Roman Empire were lying. At most, we have some guys thinking of Gladiator, but I want all those people how often I think of the Roman Empire every day. I'm like, tell me what a Vestal Virgin is. Who are the brothers who founded Rome?
Romulus and Remus.
Good, good. Were gladiators more likely to be bottoms or tops? Like these are,
Bottoms.
yeah, because of they were lower class. There's just a lot,
Mm.
you know, I mean, is Rome my number one culture that I love learning about? No, I think Rome's very interesting to learn about. The fact that Caligula means little boots, crazy. I played Caesar 3 as a kid, but I just think people are lying and they just love that it's hyper masculine. We've been talking for an hour, but
Yep.
we just hit record. This is what happens when we don't have a guest. Hi, I'm Cullen.
And I'm Hannah. Welcome
And
back to Not My Fantasy.
the show where we talk about fantasy films and the lore behind them. I wish I was still talking about Wicked like we did week because I could keep talking about Wicked forever. We're talking about another movie that came out that left me the feeling of I wish I had seen Wicked again instead. We're talking
Yeah.
about Moana 2.
Electric Boogaloo.
You know, a beautiful film. I have a friend that worked on it in like character stuff, like
Hmm.
design, as like supporting that team. You know what? She did great. These people look beautiful. And so
Yeah.
shout out to Disney Animation. I'm wearing my Disney Animation shirt that I got when I got to tour the studio. And on the back, oh no,
Oh,
I'm
it's
disappearing.
it's
I'm
just
disappearing.
Motunui.
It's just Matanui. It has
Oh, very cool.
the names of all the movies up until Wish.
Yeah, I saw Wish right there.
Shout out to Wish.
Sure.
Shout out to Wish, Julian Michaels. I owe you reparations.
Yeah, this movie, Moana 2. Would you like to share with the people what you texted me? I'm assuming after you saw it, or maybe it was the day
Like
after you saw it.
the morning after. The morning after my one night stand with Moana 2, because it will be one night stand. I don't think there'll be a repeat of this one. It is legally a movie.
Yeah, legally speaking, it is a motion picture. That's what I replied as. So, just to kind of start, even though we're going to go into like our normal stuff, this movie was not terrible. It wasn't the worst thing I've ever seen. I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed. Like, I didn't have any expectations, but any expectations I did have were just like dashed.
I think for me, and we will obviously everyone. Okay, this is kind of a well-known thing, but the fact that this was initially a Disney Plus series, right?
Yeah.
And then they made it into a movie because they knew it would make more money,
Yeah.
and they thought the story was big, but the movie did make a lot of money. This like broke records. Kids love Moana as they should. You know,
Yeah.
it's a holiday weekend, and this is especially if you're too young to see Wicked, see Moana too. But I think so for me, like I have so much respect for the people that worked on it because that's such a challenge. And so almost like looking at it like a challenge that these people faced, I like can have so much respect for because like this is a visually be stunning movie and like it does not look like lower quality than like the other installments of like Disney feature animation, right? Like and like they were able to turn a series into a movie. And so like I have so much like respect for that and the work that goes into that because like that was hard. And I know from like I was like trying to connect with my friend that was working on it and she's like, talk to me after the movie's wrapped. Like I'm busy. So like so much respect for all those people and those artists. And just because making a movie is so hard, especially an animated one, let alone like starting from like an interesting place, like it's already half done as a series. So there's that, but it doesn't feel like a movie. Like it doesn't give me that rise and fall
Mhm.
in a way.
That a movie does.
Yeah, especially a movie like Moana.
Yeah, it doesn't give you the waves of emotion.
Yeah.
Should we just get into our background a little
Yeah.
bit? So this one was directed by David G. Derrick Jr., Jason Hand, and Dana Liddell Miller, with a story by Jared Bush, Dana Liddell Miller, and Beck Smith. Screenplay by Jared Bush and Dana Liddell Miller, with additional screenplay materials by Bryson Chun. But yeah, that's a lot of people, a lot of brains who were working hard to get
And
this series transitioned to a movie.
and because it's animation that there's way more people contributing to the story than even those
Yeah.
names. Animation is
Yes.
so collaborative. But yeah, this was a journey. They were journeying as much as Moana was.
So starring again, Ali'i Cravalho as Moana, Dwayne The Rock Johnson as Maui, Huala'ai as Chung as Moni, Rose Matafeo as Loto, David Fane as Keely, Awihamai Frazier as Matangi, Khaleesi Lambert Suda as Samea, and we also do have her parents, played by the same actors, Temuera Morrison as Chief Tui and Nicole Scherzinger as Sina. We also got Grandma Tala back, played by Rachel House again. Gerald Faitala Ramsey as Tautai Vasa, who is the ancestor that appears in the first film,
Played by
but I don't think he
Lynn
has,
in the first
yes,
one.
because he doesn't have any speaking roles, he just sings, right?
Yeah.
And then Alan Tudyk again as Hey Hey. Um,
Yes.
and then music, composed by Mark Mancina and Opatai Faue. Both of them were on Moana 1 as composers and returned. But this time, no Lin-Manuel Miranda for bump in music and lyrics. We have Abigail Barlow and Emily Bear.
The people
Um,
behind the no, wait, unauthorized, both, I guess, Bridgerton
both
musical.
both unsolicited and unauthorized. Yeah.
Yes, which I'll get
Um,
into. We'll talk about that.
I was gonna say I don't know anything about it except that it exists. But yeah, like Colin said, it originally began as a TV series in 2020 for Disney Plus. Um, but in February 2024, they converted the footage into a theatrical sequel, and it cost about $150 million, which is about around how much the first movie cost too. So it seems like they didn't have a huge like financial undertaking by turning it into a movie last minute. So I guess that's really good. And box office so far is $404 million. So that's pretty good. Not too
Yeah,
bad.
not too
Especially for like
shabby.
a holiday weekend right after Wicked came out.
Yeah,
So, because like what else is out? That other Dwayne The Rock Johnson movie that everyone hates, the
Red
Christmas
One.
movie.
It's Red One,
Uh
Wicked, Gladiator 2.
Oh yeah, Gladiator 2.
I don't know how that's doing. I'm a firm believer that all the boyfriends on TikTok who said they were thinking about the Roman Empire were lying. Don't lie to me. You're not thinking about the Roman Empire.
Yeah. And today we are also not thinking about the Roman
We
Empire.
are not. We are not. I'm like also
But we're telling
okay.
the truth.
We're
We are telling
telling.
the truth.
Yeah, yeah. I'm like, do you consider thinking about the Byzantine Empire and thinking about the Roman Empire? Because you could, but if you don't know the difference, don't come at me with I think about the Roman Empire every day.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Valid.
I'm gatekeeping Rome.
You are gatekeeping
I'm
Rome.
gatekeeping Rome. Let the Pope know. What's he gonna do? Cancel my second baptism? Oh, take a shot.
I love that you're reclaiming this part of your history.
Yeah. We don't have a ton of lore today because the Moana is much, and that's a choice that's a pretty hard to, not hard, but like that is a hefty thing to think about.
Mm,
Disney's relationship with how they adapt cultures and their more modern choice to do it in a more abstract, inspired by, rather than directly adapting stories of certain cultures, a la like Mulan or Aladdin's a whole thing to unpack, or,
Hmm.
Pocahontas is based on like historical and seven quotation marks events. I think that it's like they're trying to, like, if you think of this or Raya and the Last Dragon, it's very much its own unique mythology and world,
Hmm.
as opposed to like a Hercules or like, your Snow White, Cinderella type adaptations of fairy tales. I see the pros and cons of
Yeah,
both choosing not to essentially westernize or bastardize a culture the way that you could argue they did with Greek mythology and Hercules, but also the erasure of, or the burying of, any real cultural stories under what will now become the dominant perception
true.
of that culture. I don't know what the answer is, and I think people will come at you with different answers. I tend to lean to, I love learning stories about different cultures, obviously. So I'm like, tell me one, adapt it, make it a movie. But I could see other people, especially people who are part of cultures that are often exploited or told by white audiences. They don't get to tell their own story. That to them, it's just another part of their culture being taken from them and turned into a money-making machine for the West. So, I can see all the different things, but all that to say, I don't think the Moana as a franchise is super invested in retelling Polynesian mythology.
No, because the plot of this movie, based on some of the research that you did, doesn't seem to be like specific things pulling out of the mythology. It's sort of,
No.
again, its own creations.
And that was very
Um,
true. There was much more references to it with Maui as a character because he is from
right.
mythology, but like Tafiti is not a character of Polynesian mythology.
Hmm.
um, which I didn't know until I just started researching for this podcast. So
Yeah.
that both shows you how Disney just tells us things. We're like, yeah, okay, I think that tracks.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's like that. The first movie does have, and this one through Maui has a connection to those stories, even if it's not a direct adaptation or is kind of its own fantastical world. Which is fair. It's not like Beauty and the Beast exists in the timeline of the French monarchy.
True. So we're just going to do a quick plot overview. Spoilers if you haven't seen the movie yet. We will be spoiling what happens at the end of the movie. And we're not going to go through every single point. We're just going to give the sort of general overview of what happens so we can kind of get into like what's going on with this story, what is working, what do we think is not working, those kinds of things.
I think we should flag that like Polynesia, we talked about this in our Moana 1, which we will link in this, that like when you talk about Polynesian mythology, that includes the Maori of New Zealand and Cook's Island, as well as Samoans, Native Hawaiians, Tahitians, Tongans. So it's like a diverse group of people who all kind of have their own variations of mythology. And like Maui is a common character between a lot of them. So there's like interconnectedness, but they are also separate cultures.
Hmm. Yeah.
Like, so when you say Polynesians, to compare to like Rome was very much like all about uniformity. It's a very unified culture. Just it has
Hmm.
so much diversity in it as well. But like you could say the Romans thought is a little bit more of a steady ground than to say the Polynesians thought, because again, you're referring to like 10 different cultures.
Yeah,
So
exactly. And I think that's also that touches on the fact that like part of this movie, Moana is trying to find other people in basically her general area on the ocean. So basically sort of a link to like connecting those cultures. Because yeah, like there's no specific Polynesian culture that Moana's people belong to because it's an amalgamation.
yeah.
So we pick up Moana 2. Moana has been wayfinding. She's been searching nearby islands for other people because her village is not going to survive if they don't find more people.
I
Why? We'll
Unclear.
talk about it. We'll talk
Unclear.
about the lack of clarity there.
But
I'm
makes sense that like, okay, they were isolated, now they're voyagers, now they want to find others. Like that's very much like where if you were like Cullen, make Moana 2, I think that's probably where I'd end up.
And actually, I should have listened to our episode because I think we
We
talked
talked about
about
that.
what we thought the sequel would be.
It,
And I
I
have a
think
feeling
we
it had to do with that. It's
it
like
had to do with
these,
finding another island when we. I think we said
yes,
thought there'd be like an evil chief,
yes. I think we pitched like a really good idea. So maybe it'll make it into the third one if they make a third one.
which they probably will.
Yeah.
If
Because again,
Frozen 3 and
404
4
million.
being on the docket, we can get a Moana
Uh,
3,
yeah.
and the Tangled
So
fans will keep being mad.
yeah.
They got a series.
Yeah, Moana almost got a series. Anyway, so Moana's goal basically is to get to another area of the world where there's a constellation in the sky that basically is like that's where these other islands are going to be. And she found this constellation on a piece of pottery she found on one of these islands that she's been traveling to.
Women in
Um,
archaeology.
listen, that could have been me.
Yeah.
I wanted to be an archaeologist when I was younger, fun fact. So the ancestors basically send her a sign. And there's like kind of like a comet, I guess, in
Yeah.
the sky. And so basically she needs to follow to the end of that light, and that's going to be where she needs to go.
Do you remember the Shine Down song? The I just the Haley's coming to
Yes.
me,
You
saying why
also
you always running in place. I referenced that song recently, I
you
think.
did. And I'm trying to think of what episode it was. If you remember, put it down in the comments.
Yeah.
Um,
Tell
Cullen carrying them.
Moana, go tell Maui.
I'm dead. Oh my God. So Moana rounds up a crew because she can't do it alone. She gets Moni, Lotto, Keely, Hey Hey the chicken, and Pua the pig, and this
Okay,
is the crew.
who's who? So, okay, if you were like, who's Moana's crew? I would say the lesbian shipbuilder,
Lotto is engineer, woman in STEM,
woman in
shipbuilder.
STEM. Yes.
Moni is the village storykeeper, big dork,
Yeah.
but in
The
like the best
himbo.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
And
he's
then
also
Kaylee,
strong.
yes. And then Keely is he's a
The
grumpy old
old
man
farmer.
farmer who doesn't know how to swim.
Yeah.
So that's the crew. And of course, Hey Hey, dumb as dirt,
Yeah.
and we love him for that. And then Pua, um, crispy bacon,
Crispy
I
bacon. You
guess,
know who they
because Pua
needed?
doesn't really do much.
No.
Pua is literally oh my God, he's the Jim from The Office.
He's the Jim.
That's literally what he
Yeah.
is. It's just to make faces at the camera.
Yeah. You know who they needed? They needed Olympian swimmer Cullen Jones, whose big thing was teaching kids in communities who maybe never learned how to swim.
Love that.
Yeah. He's the other like celebrity with my name, and I think he's cool.
Yeah,
And
that's
last time I Googled him, he didn't have any scandals. So
love that. Love that for him. Love that for you.
yeah. And for all those
Um,
people he's teaching how to swim. Love that for them too.
So, basically, Moana takes her new crew. They sail to the end of the light in the sky and they encounter the Kakamora there, who turns out they're not actually evil. They just need help getting home. Their home is, wow, catch that terrible typo using the wrong
Oh.
form of their.
All I was thinking is
Gross.
the Kakamora are so Bionicle coded, and then I was thinking about which I
Shut
noticed
up. I was
during the
literally
movie.
in the movie, I was like, where are the Toas?
Like I don't watch Moana. Oh, I guess I do watch Moana and think a little of Bionicle with Montanui and Matanui. And then
Yes.
but this I was like, this is very Bionicle.
Yeah, the Kagamora, listen, I missed when they were just evil, but whatever. Their home is trapped inside, get this, the special dimension that you can only get to through a god portal inside a giant magical clam in the middle of the ocean.
That's where their home is? I thought that was just how they had to get there to find the big island to find their home.
Yes,
Okay.
their home is trapped inside the special dimension. So basically, like
Okay.
that's where that island is. So they can't get to their home because they need to get past the
The clam.
clam. And that clam is there because of the special dimension that lives inside of it. So essentially, that's the only way they can get back to their home.
Okay. The clam was very, shout out to Ruby, very Kraken coded. Like remember when we talked
Yes.
about like old depictions of Krakens as like big giant like fart rock monsters? That's what
Yeah.
that clam reminded me of.
Yeah. Also
Grandma
very
Gilman would be,
vaginal.
yeah,
Very
very
vaginal.
vaginal.
Lots of
They had to make up for that phallic tower on that Little Mermaid VHS somehow.
I guess. I mean, God, that was crazy. Um
Reparations.
But Maud and her crew basically agree to the Kakamora's demands, and they like, yep, we'll go inside this clam for you. So they get trapped inside the giant magical clam with one of the Kakamora, who basically like sacrifices himself to save the rest
Mhm.
of the other Kakamora.
He joins the
And
party.
he joins the party, the adventuring party, and
Yeah.
Moana actually gets split up from the rest of the crew once inside the clam. The crew finds and saves Maui, who had been trapped inside the clam, by Matangi, who Moana actually meets when she's in the clam. Matangi, she's a baddie diva bat goddess
Yeah.
trapped at the bottom of this magical clam. Why? Unclear.
I thought because
Um,
Nalo was mad at her and he's her
yeah,
boss.
but unclear. Perhaps that if this was a series, we would have got more information.
Yeah, there's a lot of things like that. And
Yeah.
but to be fair, when it was ending, I kind of wanted it to wrap up, so I didn't care that I wasn't getting these loose ends resolved. But I was
Yeah.
like,
It
what
was only
was?
until writing this out that I was like, oh yeah, why was she there? Huh. I can't remember. That's
Yeah,
the other thing is that a lot of these details just left my brain as soon as they were happening.
they were. She was built as the villain of the movie. Not a villain,
Not very villainous to
not very
me.
villainous. You could not play her in the Disney
I was
Raven-Burger
going to
King
say she would
villainess.
not be in that. Maybe
Yeah,
that Storm guy would, which we're about to meet him. But
yeah.
Moana meets Matangi, again, baddie diva bat goddess, and
And she
Matangi
says, "Get lost."
sings Get Lost, this song that gives Moana inspiration, and then she like leads Moana to the portal to the special dimension. It turns out Moana has the special sauce, the special
Mhm.
touch to open that dimension
Main character
somehow,
energy.
literally main character energy. So then Moana, Maui, and the crew go through the special dimension. And in this dimension, there's a big monster storm. Literally, it is a monster
Yeah.
inside of a storm. And basically, they have to break this curse that is trapping this island that is basically the key to getting to the other side of the world. So basically, they need Maui to pull the island up like he did,
Hmm.
back in what?
I'm just gasping because I realize this is such a Bionicle plot. And you know all the Bionicle plots because we went through the Bionicle plots and
Yeah,
like
I
trying
know.
to
Oh,
get
yeah.
no, but like trying to get an island, but the island is just a key to another island, to the mask, to the thing. Like and fighting a storm monster, an elemental creature to
This
get
is
it like
how
this is Bionicle.
this is how the Bionicles get revived.
They're in
It's
Moana 3.
that's that's the key. They're in the special dimension. Moana is the special dimension where the
And
Bionicles
then
live.
we are gonna meet Jala and Holly are back. She says, I'll be
Yes.
practicing again. I'm in the theater, I go
Cullen dies.
crazy. Everyone else is like,
You do
what?
a standing
I'm like,
ovation.
yes, yes.
She will be practicing.
She's been practicing.
So they need they need Maui to pull this island out from the sea, and then the humans have to touch it, so then that'll break the curse.
Yeah.
And this will restore the other half of the ocean to the real world, so then they can access it and, find other people. And they do this. It's a big baddie adventure fight, I
And
guess.
that the they have to touch it. That was also giving D&D boss fight like season finale of Dimension 20.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, like that would be a great thing in a boss fight to keep combat interesting. It's like you have this goal and then you're trying to stop it. Like,
It
yeah.
was a lot of stuff happening.
Hmm.
Um, so
So
yeah,
who in
basically,
Dimension 20 is who? I think
oh boy.
I think Emily is Moana,
Lou
is
is
Maui.
Maui.
I
Um,
think I
Murph
think
is the old guy.
I think Siobhan's the nerdy girl, the nerdy
Yeah,
lesbian
woman in STEM.
woman in STEM. I
Uh,
think the himbo would be
Zach
Zach,
Oyama.
and
Or
then
actually,
I
Allie would
think
also be Allie would
Allie
be
would
the
be. I think
himbo.
Allie's more likely to play
They
the
would be the
himbo,
hippo.
and Zach would be either the Kakamora guy, and just because I could see him doing the physical comedy of just like, yeah.
Yeah,
We don't do this with every movie, but when we do, it hits.
yeah. Um, so basically Moana and her crew, they succeed and they're like out in the ocean and she does her little shell call and there's a response. And then a bunch of other people just start like sailing in.
They've all been looking.
They've all been searching. They've been waiting for Moana. Oh yeah, and Moana dies basically at the
Oh
end.
yeah.
And Maui and the ancestors bring her back to life, and she's basically a demigoddess now.
Yes. She's a demigoddess. The ancestors
So
have been sending visions, they've been involved.
she can't just be a normal girl. She has to be super powered.
We've talked about this, the
We talked
fantasy
about
genre
this.
shift between dumb idiots to superhero. The arc of the fantasy universe
The arc,
bends towards superhero.
yep,
And now here's I was thinking, okay, so Disney death. And I didn't think, okay, Moana's gonna die. Like, how are they gonna resurrect her? But when you think
right.
of like a Beauty and the Beast, Tangled was stretching. I do want to say, but I think it worked. And like a Frozen or like there's like even like a Snow White Sleeping Beauty, right? You set up how the death is broken before it is broken.
Yes.
Um, this didn't do that,
No.
but I would give it what I call the fairy godmother defense in that the ancestors have been a concept in this movie and that like that the power of them uh and so like their element that's something that exists in the movie like the fairy godmother appearing in Cinderella and being like I'm the manifestation of your belief, which she doesn't say, but she's like, oh, if you didn't believe anymore, I couldn't be here. Like, belief was such a central theme in Cinderella that, like,
Hmm.
okay, I guess I'll give it to you. But I think part of the real reason it works in Cinderella is just because people know the story and they know there's a fairy godmother.
Right.
So it's like it's a loose logic. So it works and it doesn't at the same time. And that's kind of I was like, I guess like that's how I felt about it. Was like this it felt cheap to me, like a
Like,
cheat.
I
But I
don't
was like, it
care that,
exists in the movie, so I guess I'll give it to you.
like, I don't care that, like, she got brought back to life because of the ancestors. That's fine. However, the fact that now she has, like, superpowers, like, or I guess we understand where her superpowers are coming from because,
Yeah.
again, I don't know how she opened that portal.
I
How
thought
how come she's so special?
Maui was going to give up his power for her to get it, which I was unsure how I felt about a cultural figure giving up his power to give it to a Disney IP, but like
Right.
narratively, that would be very satisfying.
Well, he kind of does that because his power was like stripped from him because his
Yeah,
tattoos were gone,
but they come back.
but they come back after Moana is revived.
Yeah, I just
So
think
it's unclear.
I think in all those all those Disney death examples, death and resurrection examples that I just mentioned, there's a real low point that we're allowed to feel. I
Hmm.
don't know if I felt like my issue with this movie is I never got to feel like that low point for Moana.
Right.
Like when she
Well,
died, I was like, well, how's she coming back? And like Maui was upset, but it's not the same as like some of those Disney death scenes are really sad. And
yeah.
not just Mufasa who dies, but like even those princess ones where you know Beast is gonna come back or Flynn or whatever, like they're upset. And it's upsetting. And I think it could just be the way the movie is, but I Moana is given those Disney princess lows. I think an important part of any Disney princess story, because at this point it's very much its own genre, is that they have these lows where like everything is lost, where the dress is torn, Eric's marrying someone else, and you get to feel those low lows. So then the high at the end when the haters are weeping and everything amazing that could happen is happening, you feel it
Hmm.
because like they've been through it, like they've suffered and
Yeah.
come out the other side. And we've talked about the whole kind of the Disney princess archetype is their narrative, is their worldview being proven right. And so like that's very satisfying. And Moana,
Yeah.
even though she's a little bit more of a traditional hero's journey, but like she like has these low lows, everything's against her, but she embraces who she is, she embraces compassion, and she like restores a heart. It's this really powerful scene. And so but it's so triumphant because we felt how scary it was for her and how hard it was for
Mm.
her. And I didn't feel those lows
Because
here.
she's not struggling. There's no, she doesn't have anything to grow in herself anymore. Or if she does,
Yeah.
it's not clear. So basically, where I kind of landed is I feel like this movie is very much just Moana having to take other people who need to better themselves on a journey so they can grow. Because, and we'll talk about a little more when we get into talking about the characters, but like basically, like each of the three crew members that she takes with her have this like flaw that she needs to help them resolve, and she does it in one song. So that's confusing. But basically, she's just a vehicle for other people's stories. And I kind of felt that way about Moana 1, except that her arc is still clearer than it is
Yeah.
here because she does have to grow herself. But I
Yeah.
think now it's very much just about these other people. And it's like, what's going on with Moana?
And that's where it falls into. I think this movie is obviously way higher quality than like your direct to video Disney
Sure.
sequels. And we know I'm a Cinderella 3 stan, but if you think of like a Cinderella 2, where Cinderella doesn't really do much in Cinderella 2, it's mainly like her acting as like a lesson machine for Jack or this Anastasia, or like, Belle becomes like, I help objects with problems. Like these kind of like Disney princess archetype of like their energy or their worldview is proven right through the conflict works in the movie, but sometimes when you add into sequels, they become like they don't have as much to do, so they just become like a lesson thing for their side characters,
Hmm.
and that's not as good as like those original movies. Now, this is obviously very different quality, but I wonder if that's how it sometimes feels like that because now Moana is not going through her own journey. Even though she becomes a demigoddess, it's much more about her helping people through journeys that at the end of the day you could be like, this would be great for an episode. That like so and so learns to swim this week.
Right.
Like the farmer learns to swim, so and so learns to be brave. Like those, like I think this would have been a really epic series, and I think it could have been a really epic movie, but they only had so much time to change it.
I mean, I kind of think that having it start as a series, I don't think it was ever going to work as a movie, even if they had a lot more time, because I feel like the whole idea would have needed to kind of be like disassembled because we need to focus again on Moana. Like how, like where is she starting at the beginning of the movie? Like what is her struggle? She's not really struggling with anything. And then like she becomes a demigoddess. It's like, okay, well, where's her starting point? How can we justify that she becomes a demigoddess? Like, why does she need to become a demigoddess? Like, what is this going to do for her? I think like I felt this about Moana 1 that like Maui has a huge arc in that movie, but Moana's is still there. And so it's like, okay, I get it. But she was still just like a vehicle for Maui's story. Maui has
Hmm.
to, do this, but she ends up being the one to restore the heart for him. Like she
Yeah.
completes his story, she fixes his mistake. In this movie, Moana is trying to help people get out of their comfort zones, basically. And it's like, that's not a movie. Because also it's like, well, what does that have to do with her community? and saving her community.
And yeah, it's unclear why they're in danger
Yeah,
because
that's the
the
whole other
island
thing.
gives them what they need.
It's
It's
in the
just
song.
consider the coconuts, the drinks and the leaves.
Yes,
Yeah.
the island gives us what we need. And no
Uh,
one leaves except
no,
now they do.
now they do, but yeah, it's like
That's the
they,
other thing is like her community's in a different spot now too because of the first movie. It was set up so well. It's like no one leaves. Now we leave because Moana showed us that it's we need to leave because we are literally our island was dying. We could see that.
yeah,
We don't see any threat because of not having other people there. Like
yeah.
it's just not, we're being told a lot of this, but we're not seeing
We're
it.
not seeing it. And to me, what would be like, okay, we need allies would be like an invading force. Like whether
Yes.
it's the Kakamora or something,
Hmm.
which I think we kind of envisioned a conflict when we were talking about like well, any conflict. I think this movie struggles with the concept of conflict in general, but like some sort of like war because Moana is such an advocate for like peace and like
Yeah.
compassion that like a clashing opposing
I
worldview.
think we pitched that they were going to find a new island, but it was like those people were not the original people of that island. They had like, I guess, colonized. But like, yeah, there's some sort of like force that is defeating other islands and consuming other islands. Like another
Yeah.
way that like their island could be consumed. It would be very clear. But I think if it was some sort of like human protagonist or human antagonist, you would still need some sort of like magical element to it. So
Yeah.
maybe they would have like Matangi on their side. It's
Yeah.
like she would have Maui, like something like that. Um, but yeah, it's just like we don't have a clear starting point that matches up with our ending point. And that's why I think like the fact that it was a show, I'm sure it would have made much more sense.
Yeah.
But right now it's like things aren't lining up.
I think there's a level of I guess this is where we could jump to the lore real quick, but well, let's start here. So like I know like Magnifico, he was like Disney's first villain in a while, and there's still he has a lot of people who think he was right now. So because people are just so haters of that movie, which I'm like erasing someone's heart's desire, I don't think is ever really quite the right thing, but whatever. But so Disney villains are an iconic brand and they get their own movies now where it's like they're sympathetic, but it's almost like we as a society, in order to be as capitalist as possible and as centrist as possible, you cannot have a villain because a villain implies a behavior is evil. I sound like I'm a conservative, but like Maleficent is evil because she doesn't care if someone's baby dies and that would make her happy. And now people are like, I want that baby on that plane to die because they're annoying me. Like
Right.
I feel attacked, so now like that's I'm being like now I very much sound like a boomer creating like some fake scenario. But like the idea that like we can't say the colonist evil governor in Pocahontas is bad, but he is. He's gonna kill all those people and destroy all their stuff. And in IRL, that is what happens. Like or the invader in Mulan, the guy Jafar who's trying to take over the kingdom. It's like these people are doing bad things, hurting people. The Wicked Stepmother in Cinderella is a child abuser. Like they're a villain. And you could be like, you can try and advocate for them or say Ursula was just a girl boss. I like Ursula's fun, but she is evil. She is manipulating a child and twisting the deal so it ends in her favor, you
Yep.
know? So there's like, we don't want to call anything evil. So we're like scared to make a villain. And I know I'm sounding kind of conservative, but how that maybe reflects like thinking of Wicked, people don't like, there's been a backlash that Wicked is you go woke, you go broke, even though it made $1 bajillion. But, because the wizard is like a con man who takes control of a country, even though he has no real skills and uses a
Yeah.
common enemy, right? And people
Yep.
don't like that there's IRL connection
Yep.
to current events, even though, this is based on something pretty old. Like Wicked didn't even invent the concept that the wizard was a fake. That's from the original book, right?
Yeah.
Like, but there's a relevance to it. And so people don't like that. So especially if you're Disney, and I always say Disney for better or for worse, like they kind of represent the average American viewpoint on things at the time.
Mhm.
Like, because leftists tend to think they're conservative and conservatives tend to think they're it's leftist. So I'm like,
Yeah.
it's very much in the middle. But we are so divided that I don't think we can even have a centrist idea of what is villainous anymore.
Yeah.
Because someone could be like, stepmother doesn't want to deal with Cinderella eating dinner with them. She's just setting a boundary. She's setting a boundary to keep that girl into the attic. Like, which is a crazy take, but somebody has made that, I am sure. Because I remember people saying
Yeah.
I would rather my daughter grow up to be like the stepmother. And I'm like, I get not vibing with Cinderella, even though I do, but I think your daughter could be more than a child abuser. I think she could be a doctor or an astronaut. Like, there's more she could aspire to.
Sort of mommy dearest.
Yeah, it's like do you get what I'm saying? Am I being crazy or
No, I think, well, I mean, if we're going to talk about bring it into this movie, is the fact that, like, who is the villain?
it is a
Because our,
abstract storm god?
yes. And so, and our actual, like, humanoid surrogate of this turns out not to be evil. It turns out to be turning against the bad guy
Yeah,
so that she can be free. Matangi turns out to be
a baddie diva.
a baddie diva pro Moana. Like,
Yeah.
and also kind of pro Maui. She was like, "Oh, he looked good." So like, like she's a baddie. She's not bad, you know.
She references they reference like it's Nepal, right? Or is it Natal?
Uh, the storm,
Yeah.
Nalo, I think, or
What the fuck? Where did I get this?
I
Nalo sounds right. Yes. It
yeah,
is the
Nalo. I saw Nalo written. I thought it was Talo this whole time until I was doing the research. But yeah, no, like he's just a storm. Apparently, he is a
Nalo. Why did
he
I
is
don't
a
know how I got in
real.
Nepal. Because I remember being like, that's confusing. That's a place.
I think he is supposed to be a real person, like a humanoid. There's a humanoid version of him. Because I don't know if you stayed for the mid-credit scene.
I had to pee so bad.
I did not stay. Oh my God, what's the crab's name? Shiny crab.
Shiny.
Oh my God, I can't
Tamatoa.
remember. Tamatoa and this guy apparently are teaming up, and potentially
Oh,
also Matangi, because he wants to take over the world. I don't know. I didn't watch it. Very
he
little of it that I know, but
he doesn't like humans coming together because of their,
yes.
their power, which is a giving a little bit of a Care Bear villain energy, but I'm here for it. I like this malicious god who wants to keep humans apart. That's very Zeus coded, and that's actually very similar to, okay,
I
the little
think
bit of lore. Time to jump into our little bit of
yes. Let's
lore.
talk about the lore. Do
So
it.
so there's in Maori mythology, I'm referencing Polynesian mythology by Sir George Gray, which is an old ass book by a white guy. Just context, but Taurihi or Taurimatea is a storm weather god, and he's the son of like the Earth Mother and the Sky Father, and like Papi and Ranji, as we talked about in our last Moana episode. And he's one of like many brothers, and his brothers are like the sky and the earth are too close. We need to separate them. That happens in Egyptian mythology. It's a common myth. And Tane, the forest god, who we talked about last week, because he had that incest thing, I believe. No, last time we talked about Moana, he was not coming up in Wicked. He with his daughter Hina, right?
Yeah.
Yes, Hina Nui Tepo, daughter of the forest god Tane and the first woman. So Tane has been up to some shit, but he's the god of the forest, bugs, birds, and so he uses the trees to tear the heavens and the earth apart. And his older brother, the storm god, is like, "Why are you're messing in my domain?" And so he teams up with the Sky Father. He has like a forest, an army of like wind and rain spirits. He destroys forests, attacks his sea god brother. This like is their like central mythological war. And so he has hostility to humanity because one of his brothers is like the god of humans and war. So there, this story of like a hostile forest god trying to like drown all of humanity, separate people, like antagonistic to the forces of nature. That's in Maori
Mhm.
mythology. So, and I get the idea of making it a separate character in
Mhm.
order to avoid commentary on like a real religious figure
Yeah.
in this Disney movie. So like I see it.
But I think maybe something that's missing, I don't think we have the context of Nalo, which is like this movie's surrogate of this mythological figure,
Orihi, yeah.
is like we don't get that context before we even hear about him, really. Like it comes from Maui, but like
Yeah.
Moana doesn't know it. So I think like one of the things,
Maui is also a less mythological figure in the Disneyverse. It references, there's much, like, it's implied he's much more human than he is
yeah,
in the mythology.
yeah. So it's like it's confusing because it's like we're in the first movie, we are provided with the story. Grandma tells us the story,
Yeah. We get
and
Tafiti and Tekka in that
we
initial
get these
story.
figures. We understand the story and the background of who these characters are and like,
Mhm.
why Taka exists. Like the heart of Tafiti was stolen. Taka is this monster. And so like we get that. But we don't have that in this movie. And so it's like, who's Nalo?
Yeah, and
What's his deal?
he's trying to keep this island hidden. He doesn't want humanity together.
And like I hate to say that like we need like an elder to tell a story. Like it's a trope probably at this point in movies
But we got a
about
nerd who's into stories.
yes, but like yeah, exactly. He could be our new figure that tells us a story. Other because otherwise we spend the first part of the movie talking about, hey, you remember the first Moana movie? Isn't Moana amazing? We're like, yeah, we know. So it's like, why we need that time to establish our new story that Moana is going to be diving into and resolving. Or is
Yeah.
that too much like the first movie? I don't know, but like I feel like this movie is also a rehash of the first movie in that like
Similar settings.
yeah, she needs to save the world by defeating a monster. It's like a
Yeah.
sort of mysterious, I think the Tafiti Te Ka connection to the island being destroyed is a lot makes a lot more sense. It's a lot clearer, but in this movie it's like it's not clear at all. Like it doesn't, but it is the same concept of a story. But
The concept of a plan. Yeah.
there's no heart. And I don't necessarily mean the heart of Tafiti. It's like
But I think like
the heart of the
Moana,
story is gone.
I mean, I think if we look at our D&D comparison, so like Dimension 20 and like D&D shows have done a great job of kind of narrativizing D&D, but right, it's a game. So you're depending on your DM, your party, whatever, it could just be like you're running stats to defeat the obstacle. Whereas like so you wouldn't necessarily have whereas this could be a D&D climax. I don't think Moana one's climax could be a D&D climax
Mm.
because that is entirely narrative. So it's like not that it could, but it's just like that would be unlikely. You know, so that is a film, a narrative climax, and this is like a series of events, like a more simplistic narrative climax in this movie.
There's also so many moving parts and
Yeah.
so many people who have to act to make the thing happen, which like I'm all for teamwork,
Yeah.
but I don't know.
I just yeah, I think it doesn't pack the same punch. I think part of it is because we don't have that internal conflict that Moana had with defying her father. Classic Disney princess defying her father. The thing is now we have Samaya, her little sister, who we two
Mhm.
know because they only call each other little sis and big sis.
Yeah.
One of my pet peeves. She's very cute. She
Sh
is giving direct like the kids they always add in those DVD sequels.
yes.
And
She's the emotional tie. to the island from
Because
Moana.
she's like, I want you to come back. She's scared of her not coming back. And
She
so
doesn't even want her
that's,
to go,
yeah. She
but
doesn't want
her
her.
parents are like, "We need you to go. Get the fuck out of here."
So that's just that is a conflict that's very real of like, oh, I don't want to miss all this time with my little sister.
Absolutely.
At the
But
But like narratively, it does it because the conflict between a teenager and a small child is different than the conflict between a teenager and their adult parents.
yeah, so it's like I think because Moana not only gets their blessing to go, we haven't even talked about it, but she's become the Tao Tai of their village, which is
Yeah.
basically like an important leadership figure. I don't think it's explained all that clearly, but basically like they're like lead wayfinder, I guess.
Yeah.
Um,
It's
and
like a
so
chronicler.
shut up. But yeah, like basically she has this role, and so like not only do they give their blessing, but they're saying you have to do this now.
Yeah.
Like neither of her parents are saying, no, we want you to stay. Like you don't have to do this. It's literally like it's your duty now. And only the
Again,
little sister is like, no, I want you to stay. I don't even want you to go.
this is a great setup for a TV show.
Sure, yeah.
Because she has this job that essentially requires her to be in these different situations, much like Olivia Pope in Scandal has a job that requires her to deal with government scandals. Moana 2 is
Hence the
like
name.
Scandal, you
Wait,
heard it
that's
here
why they
first.
called it Scandal? Oh my
Yeah,
God.
yeah. It wasn't just a mistype of sandal. But yeah, like I think that's what's hard is that there are things where like this is so designed for TV and so very well designed for TV.
Yeah.
Because I think there are some TV shows that probably could be a movie. I don't know, but
Yeah, I mean, do we have anything else we want to say about the other characters, like the side characters?
they very much remind the engineer girl reminds me of Jeremy Jordan's character in the Tangled TV series.
Okay.
So they like a nerdy little friend. These characters remind me of the side characters in Tangled the series, I would say.
Mm.
And the narrative, yeah, I think it's just the and the characters like Moana just doesn't get those low lows. Um,
What is the lowest low besides her dying?
when they find the ship of the Lin-Manuel Miranda guy in the void, and they're like, he died here. And then
Yeah.
Maui's like, time to level up. And then they see the new ship. And then they are like, all right.
Yeah.
I just, this is where it's like, again, a Disney princess's strengths is in their lows. It's in Cinderella saying there's nothing left to believe in anymore. Like, it is Mulan in the mountains, disgraced her family, like, kicked out of the army, alone with her bug, horse, and dragon like about to die, either die of cold, like go home and shame her family. Like it's going through your worst case scenario. And those are characters are Cinderella, Mulan, very plucky characters that will pick themselves up and like deal with conflicts. So it's not like Moana is like them in that aspect. So it's like it makes sense that
Mm.
she can get back up and be like, we got to do this, but we have to feel the low like we do in Moana 1, you know? Moana
Yeah.
1, not a twist in
So
time.
I think that one being the lowest low is also interesting because what does that say for her? That like, oh, you're just gonna die here,
Yeah,
I
like her
guess.
hero couldn't even do this. Her legendary hero.
Right. So it's like, how could she do this?
You want to
Yeah,
be a
I
hero
think
kid, whoop-de-doo.
I think that's a interesting premise, but I don't think we're
I think we also don't know the danger the village is in.
yeah, maybe that's what it is like we don't know the danger the village is in, so we don't understand the stakes.
Yeah.
I
And the
guess
narrative hasn't been building to it because the narrative is a series of starts and stops of episodes.
yes. Yeah, it just
Because I could see in a TV show where you go on all these things and you're devoted to a quest, and then you find out the person who sent you on that quest died doing that quest, right?
yeah.
That would be a great episode. Like, so I see why it's there, but a movie in order for it to work, it would have to be like Lin-Manuel Miranda guy did it, and we can do it too. Like that's how Moana's motivating everyone. Plot twist, he couldn't do it. He's dead.
Yeah. Yeah, and also like she needs to live up to it
Yeah.
because so like basically like not necessarily that he made it to this island and did that, but like he saved the island
Yeah.
from a big bad. Like this is like a similar bad to that bad. And you know what? He went on this journey and did this and it works. Like I think if we have to set up that like she needs to become the hero that her village is asking her to be, but she's not sure if she can do that. Like that makes more sense that she's like she's forced to go on this, but she's like, I don't know. I don't know.
Well, even
I
just
just
like you think of like, okay, you spend your whole life thinking that you want to be with the wizard. He can grant your heart's desire. And then suddenly you get there after you've proven yourself in school, proven that you can do this, like all these opportunities. You get that golden ticket, you get there, and you ask for your heart's desire, and it's to help the oppressed population, your friends, the animals. Turns out he's actually the one doing it, and he has no real power.
never meet your heroes.
Like that exactly. So it's like that because that was Alphaba's goal this whole time was to meet the wizard and be with the wizard, and then it's so powerful that she rejects that goal because she realizes it would either like he's a bad person and she would have to become complicit
Hmm.
in the bad things. And so even though people would like her more, she'd be bad. Like I obviously that whole movie is a deconstruction of good and bad and things like that. So I'm like being simplistic, but like that. So that's why that's like a gut wrenching twist. Whereas like
So Mana doesn't have any choice in this movie that it's no there's no gut-wrenching choice that she has to make like how
yeah,
Elphaba does. And like I think like
like or
that's
even how Moana does in the first movie, like stay in your village or leave and follow the call.
yeah, she doesn't have a choice. She is given this role. She has to act on this role, which is doing this thing, and that's it. She's not given a hard decision to make.
Yeah, because
That's what it's missing.
because before the call wasn't out there at all, it's inside her. It's like the tide always falling and rising.
Uh-huh.
I will carry you here in my heart, deep inside me. Because come what may, we know the way. I'm Moana.
Hmm.
I don't even listen to that song that much. That's not even like a heavy repeater for
You know
me.
what? I think that's a great segue into the music because look at you recalling lyrics from the first movie. Can you recall a single lyric from this movie?
Beyond Moana, you gotta level up.
No, you're just naming titles. I'm saying
Let's get
lyrics.
lyrics.
Give me a karaoke number right now.
See, I could
That's the
barely.
thing.
What are the songs in the movie? Because when I think Moana 2 and I think about like, because I mean, I work in animation. I talk with my coworkers. Oh, did you see Moana 2? You know, I'm
The
thinking,
first song is about
oh, it's like Land and Sea something.
like yeah, like this is our village now. Like we are both the land and sea
Yeah.
people.
Yeah, we are, and but like when I think of this movie, I start thinking of, and the call isn't out there at all, it's inside me. Like I'm thinking of the songs in the first movie.
Yes. So yeah, like these songs. So the first one is literally like a
Let me pull
This
up
is like
Spotify
we're
so I can
doing
find this
so
track list.
great. Our village is doing so great. There's nothing wrong. That's kind of what it's giving me.
Yes.
Um, because also
That's
there's like part of that song that is also about Moana because
she's like a celebrity.
yeah, because Moni sings about her.
Then we got Beyond, which is like the big song.
And what is
Uh,
that one about?
if we go beyond.
Huh?
Let's see, does it have the lyrics?
So I'm on the Disney
Beyond.
fandom website. I know these stars above the ocean. Now new skies call me by name. Suddenly nothing feels the same. I know the path that must be chosen, but this is bigger than before. Winds of chains, tide turn me far away from shore. What waits for me forever far from home, from everything and everyone I've ever known. So basically she's like talking about how scary this is going to be to leave the waters she's familiar with, to potentially put herself in danger and lose her family.
Um,
Um,
do you notice a lot of repeated words?
I do.
Yeah, okay, let's put a mental pin. All right. Because I'm gonna be on a bit of a soapbox here. You're getting this from the lyricist of Bright Rose Awakens, so finding we get what could be better than this, our montage song, where
Yeah.
she's getting them excited about the water. I'm a little confused why they didn't want to be on the water. It's okay. And then
Then
can
there's
I
Get
get a
Lost.
oh, get lost. Yes. Get
Oh,
lost. Get
and
to
then
it. That's how my brain jumps to a different song.
yeah, Maui has a
Get
song.
it. Can I get a chi-hoo?
Yeah, that's not a good song at all. Um, and
The reprise of Beyond.
yeah.
And then we know the way finale.
Oh wow. And we have Level Up. We also said that one too.
Yes.
So yeah, these songs, I was forgetting them as they were happening. None of the
Yes.
melodies really stuck with me. None of them gave me those like the musical goosebumps. Like every time I hear I Am Moana in all of its forms is like chills. I
Yeah.
didn't have any of that.
And we have Alihi, who's like the voice of an angel,
So
the voice
amazing.
of a demigoddess.
And like obviously like she did the first Moana when she was like really young, like
She's like
still a
16.
teenager.
Yeah.
And as she's gotten older, she's gotten more practice. And so like her voice is even stronger and, you know, she's just improved her voice. And so like it sounds so good. And that makes me so sad because these songs are not the platform that Ali deserves.
Yes.
The
So
Rock, I couldn't be bothered because that man cannot sing.
is he doing his own
But
singing in the Moana live action, which is
uh
being filmed? It's on its way.
I
You
Cullen,
can't stop
talk
it. It's
about listen,
inevitable.
this movie again, they literally I don't know if it's no, I mean it has been reported that basically they decided to change it from a series to a movie because they're like, "Oh yeah, this series isn't going to make us any money. Let's make it into a movie." It was about the money.
Yeah.
And this live action is about them like
We I
the
I
the
I
thing
was saying how I sat through three different live action remake trailers, not counting the How to Train Your Dragon one because I came late, but there's three. There was Lilo Stitch, Mufasa, which reads like a bad AO3 fan fiction, like the dialogue in the
yeah.
trailer, and then
I've always wanted a brother.
Snow White with Rachel Zegers.
My thing about live action movies is that it the
Stop.
th the
I'm the vine. Is this allowed? Stop.
the metaphor I keep coming up to is like the body is not even cold yet, right?
Yeah.
Like the movie hasn't even. like Moana was a powerful movie, but like it hasn't had the time to really settle, and we're already doing a live action remake.
I mean, I
That's
think when
crazy.
they remake the 90s ones, it's too soon.
I agree.
Because at least when they redo the older ones, even if I don't like the choices they make, like choices are made. And there's
Yeah.
way less choices made in those 90s ones. You know,
I mean, I think that
like Snow White looks like it's going to be a mess, not for the reasons people are criticizing. I
right.
think where we ended up with the dwarves after all the discourse is we probably ended up with a lose, 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 lose situation. But like, at least I'm interested because it's not going to be the same movie. You
True.
know, like so it could be good, it could be bad. Like there's a but like when you see a 90s remake, you're like, oh, this is just about to be the a worse version of one I've seen.
And it's just like cash grab after cash grab after cash grab, and it's so annoying.
I said like it made me appreciate Frozen 2, which was definitely like a studio we got to make a Frozen 2 mandate. But and like you can watch the making of, like I know they were very much struggling with like the direction to take that movie,
Yeah.
but you feel the artistry in it. And a big part of that is the music. So back to the music. The Lopez's, I mean, they are good. They're good at what they do. They're good at what they do.
Hmm.
Um, I, f- I'm a big my casual convo, and I'm pretty sure what I said in this podcast. But usually when people talk about the movie Wish, what I say is I feel like the music wasn't very strong, and that's why it came across the way it did. I actually don't think the story was that weak or the characters were particularly bad. I think too many Disney references, but again, I think the music, you know, in a Disney musical is such a strong point and can carry a movie that in weaker areas.
Hmm.
But I definitely felt more emotion in that music. I I think it was mainly like for some of those songs, some of the lyrics were a little lacking.
In Wish.
Yes. I think the problem is people think we need pop, we need rap, but they don't really look at what Lin-Manuel has brought when he mixes those because he does a lot of lyrical variants. He's a brilliant lyricist. You know, you
Yeah.
can say a lot of things about that man, but he's a very good lyricist.
Yeah.
And so when you think of a Schwartz, a Menken, like their kind of musical style, even the Lopez's, like these are musical theater songs. They're not pop songs, even if
Yep.
they pull from pop. What I mean by that is like it's not a refrain. It's not like we get the refrain and now we're doing the same words in the chorus. When like part of your world has like chorus, refrain, whatever, but like those words change each time. Even if not
Yep.
they don't all change. They change to convey a switch, an increased intensity, a resolution
Hmm.
that is reached. Someday I'll be. Used to be wish I could be, now someday I'll be part of your
Yep.
world. You know, the older Disney songs from like the 50s, which is when musical theater was really beginning as a genre, they don't vary as much. However, they don't repeat. You Cinderella sings "A Dream Is a Wish Your Heart Makes." The mice go la 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 for a little bit, and then she repeats the final line. Still not a
Hmm.
very long song, but these are like your average radio length pop song, and the words aren't changing, so it's static to us. It's to us as the audience. The people are moving around, they're jumping around, but it's static. One message is being imparted. The song, a 3 minute song, is imparting one thing to us. You got to
Hmm.
level up, Moana. You got to get lost, Moana. Can we go beyond? Whereas part of your world, you get okay, Ariel wants to see people dancing. She's curious. She's frustrated with like her being held back by her father, like all this stuff. You get even in like let's go like if you go all the way back to like a Once Upon a Dream, which does not have lyrical variants, there is a narrative shift of like she's dreaming of somebody, somebody's here. There's if you go to like Just Around the River Bend,
Hmm.
like the words are changing throughout. Even before she says, I look once just around the river and beyond the shore, somewhere past the sea. So she's just around the river bend. And then the second time she sings it, because she only even sings it twice, is just around the river bend, beyond the shore. Where the Gulls Fly Free, and then don't know if Why Do All My Dreams Extend, right? So
Just
that's the
Beyond the River
final one.
Bend. Yeah.
So she's like, my dreams are out of reach, right? And that's again a relatively short song. You can,
But then also in that song, she also has the switch of like, should I should I do this thing or should I do that thing? Like she's literally at a crossroads
yeah.
in the visual and in the song. Like
The lyrics
no, our
are,
narrative. Yeah.
yeah, they're not, and it's even if you go take it to How Far I'll Go, Lynn repeats more than say your Mencken, like Ashman or Mencken Schwartz era. But
Hmm.
he there's still like in How Far I'll Go, there's a lyrical change. Like it doesn't read as verse chorus super far because like the words do change in How Far I'll Go throughout the song.
Because she starts on land and then she gets on the canoe and
Mhm.
she's going out.
It used
And
to
like
be
there's
it
this
calls
intensity.
me, now it's blinding.
Yes.
See the light of the sun and see it calls me. See the lighthouse trying to see it's blinding.
Because she's on the ocean.
Yeah. You get in like a Frozen. She doesn't let it go, can't hold it in anymore, let it go, turn away and slam the door. Then let it go, I'm one with the wind and sky, let it go, you'll never see me cry. For the first time in forever, there'll be music, there'll be light. For the first time in forever, I'll be dancing with the night. For the first time in forever, there'll be magic, there'll be fun. For the first time in forever, I could be noticed by someone. You
Mm-hmm.
know, and it's not like that is a shift. Okay, she wants to party. She wants to be noticed. She wants to matter.
Mm-hmm.
Elsa wants to let it go. She can't hold it in. She's turn away. She's slamming the door, and then, but she's like, "I'm an elemental force," like I'm free, and I could. This is why I know, like the Bridgerton musical was trending, and I remember listening to a couple of the songs, and being like, okay, but I couldn't listen to the whole concept album. I think I was thrown off by the fact that this is essentially fan fiction and I am a fanfic writer, so it's not like I'm against that, but I'm like I can't get an award for it. It's my fan fiction, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's a again, music is different than writing. Obviously, I can't overly compare, but the lyrics I just remember a lot of the songs felt like, "Hi, I'm this character and this is my song." And then the big one, the uh about like the party, the like was it where they dance in the rain, which is a big climactic moment. Um they're like, I can't even taste champagne no without even hearing your name, and they like repeat that again and again, and I'm like, tasting champagne isn't a big deal in the story narratively. It's just the one rhyme you have and you keep repeating
Using it.
it.
Yeah.
You know, it's like it's not that the music doesn't really hit for me, but I think the lyrics frustrate me. I think that's also it's
Mm.
because they stay in the same, and I lyrics are hard. And like I know that like as the lyricist of Rise Awakens, but a lot of those lyrics honestly weren't that great. I was a teenager, and I haven't written a song in a while, and it's sometimes basic is good because it works. There's like lyrics are very hard. So it's a
Yeah.
skill I can do. It's very hard. So it's like I have a lot of appreciation. And music is really, really hard. But I just think like especially with your Disney feature animation, you have all this legacy. And to just kind of, it feels lazy. To me, it feels like Disney gave you this big shot to you
Hmm.
get to write songs for a Disney musical. And you're
Well,
gonna repeat the same course, you're gonna copy paste. You're gonna
well,
copy paste
this
here.
started, I mean, were the songs going to be in the series?
Yeah, I'm pretty
So it
sure.
started as the series.
Have
So the
you
caliber,
I haven't even watched the Tangled series, I want to say, but some of those songs slap.
never heard them.
You should look them up because they're good. I mean, it's Alan Menken.
So,
Alan Menken he's wild when you think of like how much he's done and like that he kind of brings it every time. But obviously not everyone's a banger, but it's very funny to be like which ones he decides to bring it and which times he's like, I can phone this in. But I don't think Tangled the series was the time where he felt like he could phone it in. And I love that.
but I also think that like the people who wrote these songs, I mean, other than the Bridgerton musicals, like what is their background? Like, is it pop music writing or are
Because I
they
know
actually
Julia
like,
Michaels, who from Wish, was a pop music writer, and I think the music of Wish, not all of it. I don't know. I just think I think this Wish is a decent song. I think the lyrics are a little fuzzy and could
I
be strengthened. Whereas these, I'm like, I don't even know where I would start.
I also think that like for me the melodies don't stick. I can't even hear the melody of any of these Moana songs.
I think it's mainly they have some musical theater demos, TV. Just okay, I'm on your own website. Give me the list of what you've done. And don't make me watch a video.
Yeah, I'm just curious because it's like,
They are young. They're the youngest composers to write all the songs for an anime Disney film. Good for you.
so yeah, that's a great achievement. And you didn't 100% nail it. That's fine. But I also think that like there's this could sound ageist, but like there's a benefit to getting people who are a lot more experienced, is that like, and also experienced in this particular type of lyric writing. Because like, but I guess if they have musical background, like they should understand the principles of writing lyrics to move a story along, not to
Yeah.
make it static. So,
Because I like Call Me Maybe's a banger, as it would function in a musical, it'd be repetitive.
right. That I think that's one of the things that like makes any sort of jukebox musical hard is because pop music, like
Yeah.
you don't have a narrative. Like we have joked about doing a Katy Perry musical for years. And I think about it sometimes very seriously. And you
Yeah,
know
I
what?
have
I think
the
she would
opening.
be willing to take us on given her current status. But, but
I
I'm thinking of like none of these songs like can work in a narrative. Like I cannot make a compelling character out of
Yeah, and I've thought of
like
how it
there's
would
like
work. Like
yes,
I have the opening California Girls number choreoed in my head.
same.
Yeah,
Like
because that is the opening. I know what the men are singing, the women are singing, like how you create how you use that as set dressing as the
yeah,
equivalent of like Welcome to the Village. Like this obviously takes place in LA. Someone moves to LA. They're like new and naive. There's like maybe an alien, because then E.T., like
yeah.
there's like I could see it, but again, what people would be expecting emotionally from a Katy Perry jukebox musical is not going to be what they're expecting from a animated Disney
Yeah.
epic. Um,
Yeah, I think the melody is not great. Like I don't hear any of these melodies in my head. I feel the
yeah.
same thing about Wish. I don't have any of those melodies in my head.
Thing is, I kind of do with a couple of them. And I'm very critical of Wish's music, but I
Yeah.
think some of those songs hit a little more. And I wonder if it's because there's a little bit more. Like when Asha is singing this Wish, she's like devastated and she is wishing so fucking hard. And I think the beyond, like Moana's nervous, but like Moana has done so much. So, like, in
That's
order
the
for her
thing.
to be
She
scared
did this
enough,
on her own. She doesn't know where she needs to go. She didn't know anything about the ocean in the first movie, and she did it.
yeah.
She also didn't know where she was going, but she was like, I'm excited. I can do this. Why is she so afraid?
Yeah. Why is she
Because she
afraid?
also, and again, in the first movie, she didn't know where she was going. She doesn't know where she's going now. She doesn't know she's going inside a giant clam and then inside of a special dimension god
Yeah.
portal. She doesn't know any of this. So
And
it's like, what is she scared of?
what is
Not
she?
that she shouldn't be scared, but like, what does this song even
She's
mean?
Moana. She came to Maui and said, "Board my boat, and you will help me restore the heart of Tafiti."
So
There's,
I also think that I'm not saying that like the music, I'm going to say that I don't think the music is the only issue. I think that
yeah,
perhaps their story that they had to work with was not solid
True.
enough to come up with like really good emotional songs.
I also think how a song functions for a musical TV show is different, right?
Sure.
So you have the aspect of when a character, it's the old truism, when a character can't speak, they sing. So then you get like in a TV show, whether that's Glee, but more like you think of like Has Been Hotel, Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, like songs like musicals, not like a Glee or a Smash that are kind of like shows about music. There's
Mm,
a slight different, like a musical TV show. Crazy Ex-Girlfriend is kind of a masterclass in everything, but like there's
mhm.
the song functions maybe to describe the theme of the episode or the message. Like, you need to get lost, Moana. Don't be so strict about following which stars. I, Bat Lady, will tell you this. But that in a TV show works because that's summing up our episode. You know,
Yeah.
in a movie, you have to feel so hard. You have to be, my life is a lie, wishes are being hoarded by Big Magnifico. I'm gonna make this wish, and people are gonna look at me like I'm crazy for using that as a positive example. But you know, I see the lanterns that I've wanted to see my whole life, and now I see this person, and I have these new feelings. I
Mhm.
see the light. You know, there's a, it's a big emotion, and yeah, I think she doesn't have like we don't know why she's afraid, and we know she can do it. And again, it's like you
It's
almost
like
need a
they've reverted her back even more than
yeah,
she was in the first movie. And it's like, how? Why?
it
Is it because she has a little sister? I don't
yeah.
think, I don't know how that, like, I could make assumptions as to like how that makes sense. It's like now she's nervous because like she's gonna miss out on being
Hmm.
around her sister. Like, I get that, but I'm
It's
not being shown that. So it's like they've completely, because she was so brave from such a young age in the
yeah.
first movie. So it's like this this scared Moana doesn't ring true to me.
Even Elsa being nervous about seeing more things, which I don't, that's not the best. It's not like narratively the strongest want or whatever, but there is like you get the desire to like, well, I don't necessarily want to ditch my sister who sacrificed everything to save me, but I will. But it's like I do. You get why she feels bad about it. That is a stronger one. There is this whole. I mean, that's a whole trend in Disney sequels lately is like the codependency narrative of whether it's Ralph and Vanellope or Anna and Elsa. And it's like
Yeah.
sometimes we love people and we want to be near them. I don't know. But yeah, it's like the daughter's the sister's a new character, so it's not like we have that to begin with.
Right.
Yeah, I feel like now it's like I didn't have any thoughts, but here we are. But
I knew
like,
this was gonna
I knew
happen.
it was gonna technically, it feels like we've been talking for longer because we talked for an hour before we started recording. I think that's really all because now it's getting to the point like it sounds like I hated this movie and I didn't, though I unfortunately wasn't very entertained, and I was seeing it with my husband who has not seen Moana 1. I wish I've tried. He didn't want to watch it when we watched it, but he was like, so there's so many jokes and stuff where he's just like, okay, what? And then he was like so bored. And like Wicked, he wasn't into Wicked like before seeing it, but he like liked it and got it.
Yeah.
And we didn't talk about this in our episode, but like, because I always joke how he has like, oh, what do you think of Wish? Oh, it was nice. What do you think of Lisa Frankenstein? That was weird. Like he has very simple reviews, but like with Wicked, we were like talking about like
Mhm.
good and evil and the characters and like because it's such a deep text. Yeah, but like Moana too, he's just like, okay, this wasn't. Yeah.
Yeah, I think again, like I didn't hate it. It wasn't a bad movie. It just, again, I'm more just disappointed that like this is what was put out
And it
by
made
a
so much money.
corporation that is demanding so much money from people and is going to make a buttload of money, but like the media that they're producing is just for money. It's like there's no heart behind it. And so it's like I'm just disappointed in the fact that it is so cash grabby to me
Yeah.
because like there are so many like they pushed it out for a release and obviously yes you have to release it but if you're making the decision to be like okay we're not doing a series we're doing a movie don't just try to cobble it together like give it the time it deserves
But you
but
think of
also
their original, their recent originals. Encanto did well later in streaming, but it wasn't a huge success in the theater. But it's a huge cultural impact, right? Um,
did it come out in theaters
it
or
did,
was that during the
but it was
pandemic?
like late pan, like
Okay,
early reopening. So
got
I don't
it.
think people were flocking to theaters the same way. But like Strange World, Wish, like didn't do so well. Two black protagonists, so there's something to unpack there.
Yeah.
But there's like Moana 2 made a ton of money. Inside Out 2 made a ton of money. I mean, Frozen 2 was their last one pre-pandemic, right? Yeah, and that made a ton of money. Whereas, I mean, Raya was released to Disney Plus, so like who's to say how that would have done?
Yeah.
I haven't seen it since I first initially saw it, so we'll probably talk about that on this show someday. Yeah, so it's just like the thing is, it's like we complain, but we also do reward the company.
Yes.
I didn't
It's
see Inside Out 2 till streaming, so I did my part. No. uh, but like, because I'm the kind of person I'm always going to see Disney's new release around Thanksgiving.
Mm.
It's what I'm going to do. Like, that's just me as a person.
Yeah, I think I haven't I had not fully articulated how I felt about the movie, and I think disappointment is the big thing. And I also wanted to make sure that like it's not disappointing on the people who made it. It certainly is
Yeah.
not that. It's on the decision makers who decided, no, this needs to be a movie, and we need the people who are working on it to make it work.
Yeah, I think it's also disappointment because you know how talented the people working on it
Yes,
are, how
because I can
beautiful
see
this
like
movie looks.
we're talking about how like we can see these threads happening. I agree. I think this could have been a really interesting series, but it's not getting the content isn't getting what it deserves because it was not meant to be a movie at first. They had what they had and they had to put it together and it's a shame. And like I didn't have any expectations for the movie because I'm like I'm not a sequel person.
Yeah.
But I was mostly like, I think I was trying to trick myself into being like, no, this is good. And then I was like, no, like something's wrong. And I
The
think in this,
first song got me. I was like,
yeah,
oh no, it's not good. Like I was like, okay,
yeah.
we'll see.
And I think during our conversation, like being able to like walk through, like, okay, these are the things that like are not working in it. And so, like, that makes me feel better knowing that, like, okay, I can see the things that could be improved upon to have made it what it could have been. And whether that's
Yeah.
keeping it in its series form or just like altering the story so it fits a little bit better into a movie format, like, you know. But yeah, I think
Yeah.
and the music again, I cannot conjure a single melody,
Hmm.
and that's a shame because Moana's music slaps.
Yeah. I think it's like the strip mining of the Magic Kingdom for IP. And it's like, dude, we didn't need like Sleeping Beauty two queens too many, as much as I love that pitch with like the ogre mom after, trying to eat them. But do we need Moana 2? And if we are to do a sequel, you need something that like, especially if we have these characters that are super powered, like Cinderella, like a lot of things are going to be hard for her because she's a woman who doesn't have any rights,
Hmm.
so like like a theatrical Cinderella 2 could be like, I have fertility issues and this is the king I live with, like, and that would be a tough plot. Like she's in the trenches. But like Moana is tough and she's and not that Cinderella's in it, but like Moana is so like she's very empowered by her society, by her skills.
Yeah.
She is in this big epic fantasy world and we know what she can do. So in order for her, she needs a villain bigger than bad vibes. She
Yeah.
she needs something that's really like she needs a lava monster, and even if that lava monster is actually Mother Earth hidden away, she still needs that big challenge. And she needs her people to be in danger. Like we saw the island like collapsing in her visions in the first one. This one they're like, "Oh, it's empty. Everyone's gone." I'm like, "They could just be in those Matoran sleep pods." The like it's just there's a I felt the same way with Frozen 2, even though that was definitely a stronger movie where it was like Elsa is so powerful, she needs someone more powerful than her to
Yep.
fight against, whether they want to recruit her into their evil army or they're trying to destroy Arendelle or whatever. It's because like superheroes are put in like a superhero narrative is different than a Disney princess narrative. I do think Disney princesses contribute more to their society because they're more than cops, but the like the superheroes fight supervillains because Spider-Man like needs someone who's stronger than him. He
Yeah.
can't just his antagonist can't be a mean lady the way it is for Cinderella, like
Yeah. Yeah. Because then otherwise they're not overcoming anything.
yeah, so it's
I
like that's I think it's like we have the thing where the protagonists are stronger than ever, the villains are less present than ever. And it used to be you were dealing with like an idiot and like the Dark Lord. And so it's like, wow, okay, this is tough. How is this little boy who beefs with the goats gonna defeat the Horned King? How is a very naive 14-year-old, or I don't fully believe she's 14, but how is a fully naive girl like Snow White gonna survive a queen with magic?
Yeah. And actually, getting back to Nalo, you barely see his face
Yeah.
in the clouds because it's just like when the
Hmm.
lightning happens, it flashes. There's no like humanoid characteristics like Taka, like her hands are reaching
Her
out,
hair, her.
her hair is the
Mhm.
lava and the smoke, and it's like Nalo, it's
This
tornadoes.
is like that Titan in Hercules.
Yeah, it's like I don't know. I think we're pretty much done
I know
talking
at this
about
point
it.
we're dissecting, but I think that's my thing is I get let's do a series. I mean, yes, I'm not necessarily for it, but like, okay, let's do like an epic story about Moana. She's a voyager. This movie does give very Voyage of the Dawn Treader and Chronicles of Narnia, like
Mm,
series of events on sea. Like you go to an island, you have a new challenge, D&D campaign style. Like I could see that for Moana, but Moana as such like our Moanas, our Elsas, if we're gonna raise the stakes, you need to raise the villain. You need
hmm.
to raise the
Yep.
antagonizing force.
And I think
Pocahontas, again, movie's a mess, but she's against colonialism and
colonialism, yep.
hatred and war, and like that's a lot. I mean, oh, there's so much we can't talk about that movie, but like that movie is so much to unpack that we are not qualified to unpack. But like that's a challenge, like there
Hmm.
needs to be like a pow, even if it's not less like a Maleficent style villain, like Quasimodo's dealing with like genocide and
Yeah,
like bigotry. Beauty and the Beast are dealing with bigotry that empowers Gaston.
yeah. This movie does not set up its stakes
Yeah.
properly, um, which is a shame.
Yeah.
But, you know,
Beautiful gowns. It looked great.
are we gonna ask our question? Was that your fantasy?
I totally even forgot. No.
No.
As much as I love a road trip and I love water,
Mm,
um, I obviously I didn't really care for this movie. We talked about that for a million hours. If I would wanted to live that out, The Rock singing to me, no highs and lows. It's just kind of a neutral. There's like a weird storm thing. I don't really know why I'm doing it, except for a ghost formerly played by Lin-Manuel Miranda is telling me to. Um,
The ghost of Lin-Manuel Miranda's character.
and it's not even a particularly like hot experience. So
Like
what
Paris
is it?
Hilton, that's hot,
Yeah, it's like I'm not even having like sexy times on this road trip. I'm
right?
just going on a road trip for a vague
On the
problem,
ocean.
and the rock sings to me,
Yeah, that's
and
the
I
worst part.
get engulfed in a vaginal clam.
Yeah, that's God.
Yeah,
That,
yeah, that's just not that's a no for me, babes.
yeah, it's a no for me.
If I'm gonna go on an adventure, I want to feel it in my heart.
It's a no all around. But yeah, that was our episode on Moana 2.
Still not a twist in time.
Still not a twist in time. And you know what? I'm even gonna say this, not even really an electric boogaloo.
Wow, not even scathing.
That's the title of the video. Moana 2, not an electric boogaloo.
Honestly,
Thank you. Well, thanks for sticking around, listeners, and listening to the episode. Uh,
we we got a special coming up.
we
We
do.
do. So we're in the time of year where people start posting things without
Uh-huh.
having read a book about
Mm.
the history of certain holidays. You're going to see claims that Hercules had a virgin birth. I think you should consult Hera and Alcmene's husband and kind of see if that qualifies as virgin. Is sleeping with someone disguised as your husband who's not your husband, if that doesn't count as sex. Uh,
That's
I
crazy because that's definitely sex, but it's also SA.
assault. It's also morally reprehensible
Yeah.
on the part of the tricker. And yeah, or do you think having sex with a wooden penis that was attached to the corpse of your husband that you reanimated with magic counts as a virgin conception? That's the birth of Horus. Shout out to gods of Egypt. Never die. You're just gonna see people are gonna be making a claim, making an unresearched claim, and I don't even know. We're not even really talking about like the Jesus stuff, but we're
Yeah, I was
talking
gonna
about
say, I'm so glad that you're bringing all this context in because we're talking about
Muppet
something that
Christmas Carol.
definitely has to do with all of those things. Yeah, Muppet Christmas Carol, we're having a little bit of a panel.
Yes,
We
it's a
have
family affair.
It is a family affair, family all around, chosen family, blood family. It's all there. So yeah, tune in to our next episode where we will take you into the holiday season with Muppet Christmas
Muppet,
Carol.
and we'll touch on both the novel and the history of kind of that novel was influential in like Christmas as it appears to us now. And so that's where the virgin birth stuff comes in. We're not really tackling the story of Christ, but we'll say that for a VeggieTales episode. JK, there's no VeggieTales episodes about Jesus as a vegetable because they thought that'd be sacrilegious. But we
Right.
will be talking about like Christmas as connections with the supernatural and how that holiday has evolved. Because holidays evolve over time, and that's not a conspiracy, that's just how humans work.
Yeah, there you go. Well, you can follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Not My Fantasy Pod.
Yeah.
Share the podcast with your friends, family. Give us a 5-star review. Let us know in your little comment what you love about the podcast. This will help us find more awesome listeners just like you. And if you're watching on YouTube, hi, I've been disappearing into my background, but you can
Smash that like button.
smash the like button, hit the subscribe button, and that notification bell so you get notified anytime we drop a new video episode. Again, Muppet Christmas Carol next episode. And then, yeah, that'll
Yeah.
be it for the calendar year.
For the
Oh my
calendar
goodness.
year. And follow me on Instagram. You can follow me on Instagram at Cullen Ever After. There's a Hot Frosty reference in my latest post. Someone said they wanted a podcast episode on Hot Frosty. I maybe someday, I don't know if I was emotionally ready for that this year or to make Hannah watch it because My quick take is it's a bit of a snooze, and as much as it would be fun to discuss its connection to the Pygmalion myth, it is not as good as Vanessa Hudgens' The Night Before Christmas. Slightly
I've
similar
never even
premise.
heard of this,
Okay,
so
so
this is
Hot
wild.
Frosty is a Frosty, like Frosty the Snowman, but he's hot. And he falls in love. He's
Is
played
he still
by,
made of snow?
yes, he was made of snow, but he becomes a human and is in love with Gretchen Wieners.
Oh, no, 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 no. Okay, I have seen this.
Yeah, I'm like,
Yes.
you've
Well, I
heard of
haven't
Hot
seen it,
Frosty.
but
Yeah.
I have heard of it,
It
seen
is
of it.
not as good as Night Before Christmas, and I think the fantasy of it, again, it'd be fun to talk about its connection to the Pygmalion myth, but I don't like the idea of dating someone with the mind of a child. And as much as it'd be hard to date a medieval knight, they are at least an adult.
And a grown man. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that the fantasy of that movie works for me and is a better holiday watch. So that is my quick take on Hot Frosty for everyone asking in the comment section of my latest Instagram post on Cullen Ever After.
Lovely. Well, we will see you guys next episode. Bye.
Bye. We're Alphabet and Glinda.